صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. وأنفسهم عفيفة. وأنفسهم, and their selves. We talk about أنفسهم, we talk about someone's self. The Imam says عفيفة. When we hear the word عفاف or the word عفة, we generally associate this and we presume that this is an issue that is only linked with women. Our general presumption is that a woman, عفة, is modesty. And a woman has to wear modest clothing. She wears the hijab. A woman should be modest in her talk when she lowers her tone and does not speak in a manner wanting men to take heed. In a woman's gait, in the manner that she walks, that a woman should be humble in her walk and not walk in a manner where she brings attention. So we have this misconception because we say she dresses virtuously, she speaks respectfully and walks humbly, that is modesty. But this isn't the case. It is like saying that men should not have modesty when it comes to dress, as they are not confined to hijab. You know, sometimes you get females ask, can you please talk about men's hijab? I've always wanted to know, what is this men's hijab? Frankly, we are hideous as it is. Imagine us wearing something on our heads. Imagine what we'd look like. So you consider this men's hijab, where it came from. We're not confined to any dress or any speech or any way we walk, because men are not like the opposite gender. And the proof of this is you never have men selling items. You know, the Formula Ones, honestly, could you imagine the Formula One cars come in the pits and there's guys wearing, you know, the Speedos and standing next to the cars? Don't care how buff their body is. Could you imagine the way, how the drivers would feel being around these people? You know, all their muscles and protrusions that appear, what would actually happen? Men aren't in that same manner as women. But does that mean that men do not have to, or do not have any thing governing them when it comes to modesty? Is afaf only a woman's thing? The problem is the misconception of what affa is. Affa is with regard to our body and what we do. Affa of something, it has a definition. Modesty is basically preventing or stopping the self, okay, from what is prohibited or what is forbidden or what is inappropriate. So preventing myself. So when I say in the narration, Amir al-Mu'mineen says, أنفسهم عفيفة. The self is what? It's spiritual. The self is not physical. So how is it that the self can transgress or the self can exceed limits? How do we see it like this? When the action is in the hands, the actions with the eyes, the actions with the ears, the actions with the tongue, the actions with the stomach, the actions with the private parts. Why is it then that Amir al-Mu'mineen says here, أنفسهم عفيفة? Because the sin is committed within the self before it's committed with the eye and committed with the stomach and what have you. This is why when Nabi Musa alayhi salam said to the people, وَلَا تَزْنُوا, Do not commit adultery. Do not fornicate. And you'll find this even present after all the fabrications in the Bible. It's still present within the Bible. It's one of the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Then, you'll find that when you read in the laws that Moses brought forth. Then you read, when it comes to Jesus, it moves a step further. He says, you will have heard that in the old law, that if someone commits adultery, they have sinned, but I say no. I say they have sinned even if their eye commits adultery. That if they look with sin, even if their hand has committed adultery, if they touch with lust or they look with lust, that's a sin. Then it advanced a step further. With the final messenger, Rasulullah Muhamed sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam, he says, do not think of zina. Not don't commit, not don't look. He says don't even think about it. Don't have that sin present, because it begins in the nafs, the self, before it manifests. Take for example greed. Greed is a sin within the self that manifests. When we say manifests, when we say something manifests, it appears. It has an appearance. So greed within the self appears as what? As theft. A thief is a greedy person. A thief is someone that wants something that you've earned or something that you have, and he wants to do it. You know, say for example, I have a nice watch. Doesn't matter how I've earned this watch, whether I've worked hard to buy it, whether it has been given to me as a gift, whether my parents, I inherited it from my parents. Regardless of how I acquired the watch, the thief says, I want that watch. And I don't want the prerequisites that the other guy had. I don't care how he earned it. I don't care whether it was given. I want what he has. It is his obligation to give me that watch, and I will take it. This is why a thief steals, because their greed manifests or becomes theft. The initial sin begins in the self, then becomes the action. This is where the devil works. Shaitan begins with the self. He lures you there. He makes things appear nice to you. Think of all the thoughts you have. You want to know if your thoughts are unsavory or good? Sit with a God-fearing person. Sit in a group of God-fearing people. See if these thoughts rise when you're around them. Because you see this people or this group of people, these thoughts should not be with me. You remember God. This is why it's good to associate with good people, so these thoughts do not arise. But if they do, they are first an ornament and a decoration that's placed by the devil. That what you look at, the devil has no power over you. Shaitan has absolutely no power over you. He's just very suggestive. What do you think? Looks good, doesn't it? You want to touch it? You want this? It could be yours. And then he'll use his second step. If you don't want to take a plunge, he'll say, you know what? Look through the Quran. It always says Allah Ghafurun Rahim. God will forgive you. That uses this avenue, God will forgive you. Go for it. You then forget that there's a possibility that you may go down that road and never return. So this is where it begins. So it's a self that wants and that lunges towards this thing. And a person who stifles this lunge or suppresses this lunge is someone that has iffa, or someone that has modesty. For example, I'm walking, just a small example, and I see something that is forbidden to look at. The self says, I need to look at this. The afif, or the someone that has affa, says, you're not going to look at this, and turns away. Either lowers their gaze or turns to the side, or looks at the sky. Removes their sight from what has been forbidden to them. Now let's take a look at what the reward for modesty is first, before we delve deeper into the discussion. The narration says, عن أمير المؤمنين علي ibn Abi Talib عليه السلام. This is one of the sayings in Nahj al-Balagha. He says, ما المجاهد الشهيد في سبيل الله بأعظم أجرا ممن قدر فعفى. Listen to this. When you hear a tradition like this, just before I explain this tradition, I need to break it down a bit. There are two types of modesty. It's just like when they say, for example, there are two types of forgiveness. There are those that forgive because they can't do anything about it. And there are those that forgive when they can do something about it. For example, a government official oppresses you, and you are a muwatan, you are a civilian. Can you do much about a government official when you're a civilian? Not really. You're just one member, you're a unit, you're a pawn in their constituency. You're just a member, you're a very minute, I wouldn't even consider you a fraction. You can't do much, so you say, he oppressed me, Allah yasamahu. This isn't forgiveness. Or some big thug in the neighborhood that no one can fight and no one can stand up to, does something wrong to you, gives you a punch in the shoulder or something, that hurt, Allah yasamahu. Not because I am forgiving you because I'm able to do something, but because I have no chance. This isn't forgiveness. Forgiveness is when I have the ability, I'm in a position to do something to you, and I have everything in support. This is when forgiveness comes in. Likewise, when it comes to modesty, modesty is not here. If you're around here, imagine someone sitting right now in this majlis and sitting down starts to say kufriyat, starts to swear to God. Is that possible? You won't see a reasonable, once again I'll say this, a rational, a sensible and a sane person do this. An insane person, you know, someone that's missing a few screws, or as they say, someone whose lights are on but nobody's home, or someone like that might say something like this because they're not all there. Someone with Tourette's syndrome, you know, might scream out expletive, but normal people will not. Modesty is where you are capable of committing the sin. See, we avoid these sins, we avoid bad, sometimes because it's due to the situation like we are here, or it's due to our reputation. Sama. You know, when it comes to Sama, I remember once I heard someone give a really nice example. He said, why is it when someone is on holiday, you'll get someone take something like the bathrobes or the bath slippers and put them in their bag as they're leaving from the hotel room, or taking what they can on the side that's not theirs. You know, some things are yours to take, but some aren't. Like bathrobes, they sell them there. Some like taking something that you're permitted to take. Okay? But there are items you cannot take and people take them. He says, however, when it comes to, I'll give you an even better example than this, is that when it comes to your reputation and you're around people, you act like astaghfirullah. You know the guy that there's $2 he finds in a parking, you know, I've heard this story. Guy found $2 in a parking meter. And he went to touch it and a man was with him and said, astaghfirullah, brother, leave that there. So I was thinking to myself, who's this hypocrite? Firstly, for him to make such a, and then he told him, take the $2 back. He took the $2 and he took it back to The suburb that went here told him the story. I found $2 in pocket bin. He said, Astaghfirullah, brother, go take it back. Honestly. If this guy understood Shara', he would never have said that. Firstly, that money that's out of the meter is unknown who owns it. All he had to do was put it in the sadaqah tin, if he doesn't want to keep this $2. And he made such a big issue. Then when I asked him who was the guy, and when he told me who the guy was, this same guy owed someone $15,000 and hadn't paid it off. Same guy. So when it comes to me pretending that I've got humility, please, brother, you know the people that weigh the air when they're around you. Astaghfirullah, brother. This Abd al-Faqir. None of this. Reputation is one of the reasons why people show this false modesty or incapacity. I'm not capable. Like I mentioned with forgiveness. I'm not capable of committing a sin. You know, if someone says, you know, I would never rob a bank, it's haram. Why? Because they're not capable. But then there are those that are capable, but don't. Now there are the second ones, which I said, the ones that are capable. These are the ones with true modesty. And I gave an example a few nights ago about people that are absent from the city. Say, for example, I go on holidays. I end up somewhere in Townsville, Cairns, Brisbane, Thailand, and there's no one there, just me and God. This is where modesty kicks in. Can I abstain from sin when no one is watching me save Allah? No one can see me. This is where modesty comes in. This is where we come to explaining what this narration means. You're talking about people here when the Imam says about mimman qadar fa'affa. Mimman qadar. Someone that has the ability, nothing to stop them, no reputation, the situation's right, and they have the capability, they have the capacity to do this. Yet they prevent, yet they stop. The Imam says about these people, those that can prevent themselves in a situation where they can sin and there's nothing to stop them, not the reputation, there's no incapacity whatsoever, there's nothing there to stop them, but they stop because they remember God. The Imam says, Ma al-mujahidu al-shaheed fi sabilillah. When you hear about al-mujahid al-shaheed, someone that fights in the way of God and is killed. Sometimes you hear of people that are killed. We have a shaheed is someone that dies with the love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. من مات على حب محمد وآل محمد مات شهيدا. We have the hadith that says whoever dies with the love of the Messenger of Allah and his progeny dies a martyr. Whoever dies on wudu dies a martyr. We have a narration, whoever dies going to work or working in order to support their family dies a martyr. There's all these narrations, but this one's not talking about them. This is talking about fawqa kulli birrin bir. The highest level of good is for one to fight in the way of Allah and be martyred. Yet, the Imam says this when it comes to this. What is the reward? وَمَا أَجْرُ. What is the reward of the one that fights in the way of Allah and is martyred in comparison to the one that is capable of sinning but prevents themselves? Why? Because they remember God. There's nothing else that's making them prevent. You cannot even compare. Now, when we look at the reward of the shaheed and the reward of the martyr, you don't need anyone to explain it to you. Allah speaks about them in the Quran, the ones that fight in the way of Allah. That when they are killed, Allah Azza wa Jal says to them, what is it that you want? The second they die, they are asked, what is it you want? Their reward is not like the one. Some people might say, hold on, this sounds a bit iffy. But there's narrations that back this up. Other than this, when the people came back from jihad, what did Rasulullah say to them? He welcomed the ones that have come from jihad, al-asghar. He refers to jihad in fighting. He calls it jihad al-asghar, the lesser jihad. And he says, and now they have come to jihad al-akbar. They've come to the greater jihad. Yes, they say, Ya Rasulullah, is there something greater than fighting in the way of Allah? He says, yes, jihad al-nafs. This jihad, when you fight an-nafs al-ammara bis-su', when you fight yourself, there's a nice couplet, nice saying, for Confucius. He says, a man that knows another man is wise, but a man that knows himself is enlightened. That's why they use the term Buddha. The Buddhists, when they use the term Buddha, why do they say Buddha? Buddha means the enlightened one, the one that has this ma'arifah. They know themselves. This is that real arfan. The real word of arfan is to know yourself, meaning you know your position in life. You know who you are, not the sophistic arfan that some people teach. Talking about the real arfan, the real understanding is to know yourself and know where you belong. Know how to control yourself. So all this, when it comes to the reward of those that fight in the way of Allah are martyred, are not like the award or the reward of those that have modesty. Also, when it comes to affa, you need to understand when it comes to modesty that knowledge comes to those that have affa. People that have taqwa and knowledge, this isn't something that's acquired from books alone. Yes, you have to read, you have to study, but real knowledge does not come from this. You read about this. The first step to acquiring knowledge is ma'rifatullah azza wa jal. To know your creator and to know yourself. Know who you are in position. To know that Allah is your master and to know that you are the servant and the slave of Allah azza wa jal. And this is why when you listen to narrations or you listen to stories, Luqman al-Hakim was who? Luqman, was he a prophet? No. Was he a wasi? No. He was a righteous man. A righteous man that has a surah in the Quran named after him, and this surah is full of hikam. It's full of wisdom. Because the narration says that the angels said to Luqman, Aradu alayhi dunya, which means they offered him this world. And he says to the angels, he sees it either in a vision or in a dream. When we say Aradu alayhi dunya, means that he was given this world. When we say given, it means he's given everything. He's given all the stuff people seek. What do people want in this world? People want power. They want the ornaments in this world. They want the wealth in this world. So he's been offered a kingdom, been offered everything. And Luqman says to the angels, do I have a choice with this? They say, what do you mean do you have a choice? He says, has Allah forced me to accept the kingdom? Or do I have a choice to take it or not? And they said, what's the difference? He said, because if I have been given a choice, then I reject it. I do not want. تلك الدار الآخرة نجعلها للذين لا يريدون علوا في الأرض ولا فساد والعاقبة للمتقين. I don't want this world. He said, however, if Allah has made it incumbent upon me that Allah wants me to take this, he says, then I will take it. They said, why will you take it if God makes it obligatory upon you? He says, because if He gives the mulk and He gives the authority and authorizes, then He will guide you so you don't go astray. He says then in the narration, فَأَصْبَحَ وَلَهُ الْحِكْمَةِ, that when he woke that morning, God gave him wisdom. This is to let you know that it is from Allah Azza wa Jal. Knowledge, al-ilmu nurun. What is ilm? It is a nur that's acquired how? Allah يغطفه الله في قلب من يشاء. Allah places ilm in the selves, on the souls, in the hearts of whomsoever He pleases. Knowledge is something that is given. There is a prerequisite to acquire knowledge. You have a lot of these information containers. One of these information containers that I mentioned many times on the podium in the speeches are people like Richard Dawkins. He's an information container. He's not an intellectual. He's not someone that's knowledgeable. In fact, when you sit and listen to him, you'll find he is like the proverb, empty vessels make the most sound. Empty. They don't know much. That when they speak to you, they speak in a manner that they presuppose something and they place it upon you, and you have to accept this. If anyone watches his debate with Mehdi Hassan in the Oxford, and he says to Mehdi Hassan, I find that you're intelligent enough, and I accept that you're intelligent enough. So, I'll pay you the compliment. Look at the way he speaks. I'll pay you the compliment to say that you're intelligent enough not to believe in Muhamed getting on a flying horse and going to heaven. Listen to what he says. I'll pay you the compliment. Automatically he makes everyone that is listening to him assume what? They all assume that it would be an insult to intelligence for him to believe in the Prophet, ascending to paradise, ascending to the heavens, on a flying horse. And Mehdi Hassan says, no, I believe in Allah. He says, I believe in God, and I believe in what is revealed, and I believe in the miracles. He says, even the flying horse, he wants to. And then if you want to see how outrageous this guy is with his argument, he says something that honestly baffles the intellect. He says people that teach children that they will go to hell if they do wrong is more detrimental to the human's affections and feelings and well-being than those that molest children. This is what he says. He says, so if someone told someone as a child that you're going to hell if you do wrong, it is worse than molesting them. Honestly, it baffles you. And so then, Mehdi Hassan, to his surprise, turns to the crowd and asks them. Look, the power of suggestion. Half the crowd raise their hands and agree with Richard Dawkins. They agree because he's already been given the title of professor, and people give him that respect. We are people that respect titles. We are people, human beings, respect positions. Someone could say a quote, something of very great value. It's not written and it's not patented till someone that is in celebrity status says it. Isn't that right? Isn't that the truth? But knowledge, true intellect is acquired from iffa, from modesty. Then Allah gives this. Just as I mentioned last night, that true worship cannot come without what? Qana'ah. Being content. Being modest, you cannot worship properly. In fact, your prayers are useless. Inna salata tanha anil fahsha'i wal munkar. That if I pray and I commit sin, my prayers are of no value. My prayers should prevent me from sinning. They should be a means of prevention when it comes to sin. Should prevent me in my prayers in general. Also, affa is a very broad thing. So before we go into tomorrow night's discussion, we'll finish with one point. There are three types of people when it comes to modesty. The first type of people are the ones that practice extreme modesty. In the sense, in every field, they have affatul yad. Their hands, their eyes, their ears, their tongue, their bellies, their private parts, all these they know how to give them their limitations. Then there are those, the ones that, in Lebanese we say, At'ina al-Marasi. Those that, or fatk, as we say in Arabic, in normal Arabic, that is, what's the opposite of colloquial? Formal Arabic. As we say in formal Arabic. When someone decides to iftuk. Fatk comes from what? When someone's riding a horse. When I lift my hands off the reins of the horse and I let the horse go loose, they call that fatk. The people that don't care, they raise their hands and say, alright, let it go loose. Let everything happen. There are those types of people. Both these are the minority. Everyone else out of the believers is in the middle. We all have a degree of modesty. Our objective, inshallah, in these following nights, inshallah, we are character building. We're building ourselves so we can become the ultimate human. So we can be respected as humans. We can actually look at ourselves and consider ourselves the position that Allah has created us. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us our transgressions and to guide us onto the righteous path, to hasten the reappearance of our Master, especially in these times. وهذا والحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى اللهم على محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين.